7th weekly SIOR commercial real estate chat series. And for those of you who are tired of listening to me, I'm just doing the introduction, and Tom Pagelick is moderating today and leading the discussion about the new landscape and office design. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom in a minute or two, but before I do, just want to acknowledge all our annual sponsors. So here we go. RD Cinto, Pinto Construction, 10X, Savings Bank of Danbury, PES Structural Engineers, Bank of America, Community Investment Corporation, Claris Construction, DeClercq Office Group, and of course we have Dan DeClercq and Jen affiliated with DeClercq with their own company as our guests this afternoon. Godfrey Hoffman Hodge and McDermott, Reynolds, and Glissman. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom. Take it away.
Right. Terrific. Thank you, Art. And thank you, everybody, for coming on this afternoon. We've got a nice group that's gathered. And this is a topic that is near and dear to me as an office leasing broker. We've seen the market pretty much hit pause over the course of the last 60 days. And there's an awful lot of concern with how we move forward from here, ranging from protocols in buildings to how we lay the spaces out, what procedures and policies we put in place to keep people safe and make them comfortable coming back to work. This afternoon, as Art mentioned, we have Dan DeClercq from DeClercq Office Group to speak to us a little bit about furnishings, how people are approaching these issues. And he's got a presentation he's going to share, which I think is terrific. You guys are in for a treat. And Jennifer Gaggion is going to join us as well from Design Your Monday. Jennifer's a designer who has a very unique perspective on a lot of these topics that come along. And I'm hoping that the two of them will share some of their experiences with their clients, and we'll have a stimulating conversation for the next 45 minutes. Please feel free, if you have any questions, to type them into our little chat opportunity there, and we'll do our best to and address your questions as we move along. So Dan, I'm going to pass it over to you at this point. And again, as I mentioned, feel free to put your questions in, and we'll do our best to respond to you.
Okay, great. I'm going to start the share screen here. Can everybody see that? Jennifer, Art, everybody, can you see the screen?
Not yet. Yeah, now it's coming up.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. It's actually great to work with Jennifer because not only is she an interior designer, but she has an HR background. And a lot of this COVID implications as it relates to furniture has strong HR meaning to it. So we're going to have this be informal, free-flowing, and certainly send in those chats and we can stop and address them as we go, or we can catch them at the end. But I put together a very small deck here. I kind of looked back in history and picked another part of our country that was in turmoil. It was back then in 1776, where we had a lot of things going on, maybe not as much like today, but I think Thomas Paine really had a simple way of looking at it, and it was to focus on simple facts, plain arguments, and common sense. And that's a lot of what we could use today from some of the talking heads on the news. But I'm going to try to use this as an outline for our talk today. So let's talk about some simple facts. This is what I'm seeing from our clients. And as everybody knows, I'm in the office furniture business. We deal with all types of customers, Fortune 500 customers, emerging markets, healthcare, a lot of higher ed, a lot of finance, particularly down here in our Rowayton office where I am today. And many of our clients have ordered screens and glass panels for their desks and for other areas, like freestanding screens to delineate space. Again, many are ordering sanitation stations, floor standing sanitation, hand disinfectant stations now, even though they're not back at work. And since June 1st, actually, some have returned to work, but they're doing a staggered workflow, and I'm going to explain what that means, and I have a few charts to show that. not many, but not all, but many have eliminated food and drinks in their pantries. They just feel that that's just too much of a hot button. Nobody's going to want to grab some M&Ms if you don't know whose other hand has been in there. So those things have been eliminated. And others have announced that they're going to work from home all summer. With healthcare issues and things the way they are, they're just not going to come back to work right now. That gives us a respite on the interior design side and on the furniture side to really do a strong look at their facilities. We're doing it right now for FactSet, which is one of our clients. They are one of the few that announced they're going to stay and they're going to come back to work in January. They're going to stay at home all year. So we're doing a real deep dive right now in their facility. They moved from a panel environment and a private office environment to completely open. Everybody has an electric sit-stand desk, very few panels, very few screens. A lot of people are shoulder to shoulder, and they're concerned, and their rank and file are concerned on how healthy that space will be. So we're doing a very deep dive with FactSet as to what their comeback's going to look like. So here's some common sense considerations for a healthy workspace. Staggered seating is really a hot topic, and that could be staggered in the A-B. You know, you come in, if you're an A, you come in one day or 1 week, a B, you come in the next. Or you're not coming in, you're staggered when you're coming in. So I was talking to Belimo today and in Danbury, and some people are coming in half shifts. They come in the morning, they go home, and then the other people come in the afternoon. It's a reduced staff, it's not the full building, but they're just trying to bring the building back up to speed. Reduce people in meeting spaces is a must. A lot of people don't want to be in a small, confined conference room, breathing on each other. It's just not any place that I would want to be. And then the overall thing is really support for employee health and wellness. That is a must, and all companies have embraced that. And most companies are going to have a work from home component. So here's this AB. I call it Abba Baba. This has been, a lot of it is in trading, where you have a bench very much like this, where traders are shoulder to shoulder and face to face. And some are opting not to buy screens for the sides of these desks. They're just going to stagger the seating as the way you come in. And many in Stanford, the A's will come in 1 week, and then the B's will come in the second week. And that's a great way. That's a great way to bring your facility up to speed without buying any screens or any panels. Most companies are waiting for a vaccine. The trading companies are definitely waiting for a vaccine. In fact, they're probably placing bets on it right now of when the vaccines are going to be available. So they don't really want to invest, and they don't really want to spend. The time we talked about this the other day, they just don't want to put that money down if they don't know if it's not going to be needed and if it's not going to be effective. So here's the screens. So you can put these screens around your desk. So this is like a little sit-stand desk like FactSet has. So you can put washable screens or clear screens around it. You can have freestanding screens, and then you can have these enclosures that can delineate space. So what does that look like in real time? So this is what you can do. So you can add these glass panels on top of your workstations if you have a workstation environment. This has a dual environment. It's a workstation and a sit-stand desk. And so what we're doing for a number of our clients, and some of these orders are great for us. I mean, they're like $500,000 to put screens back on top of panels, because as Jennifer is going to explain, those screens went away a long time ago. People did not want to be enclosed. Now they want to be enclosed. Here's another look at a workstation where they have a low screen and then a screen. Here you have a fabric screen in the front. There's no screen here, so then you can put a screen on the desk. So this person is very well protected, even though they're in an aisle. The delineating space to me is kind of pretty cool because it adds color to the space, but these are washable materials that can be hung from the ceiling, and they can divide the space and give you more of a sense of privacy. Particularly here, this one I like is they ran it down the center aisle, and then the traffic patterns, we've all seen those in the stores, right? Where you can have the arrows and how you're going to walk, and all the companies are doing those. So you wouldn't walk down here because now you have the screens that are dividing space. These are nice because, as I said, they can add color. You can also do branding. You can do wayfinding on these screens, but they also mean that you maybe don't have to have an acrylic or a plastic screen on the desk or a freestanding screen. And then what a lot of clients are asking for is to just bring some of these conference rooms out of the conference room and out into open. And you can see here in this little seating area that you can be more than 6 feet apart from people, have a meeting, and still be safe. We're doing, for a lot of clients right now, we're removing chairs from conference rooms. So this 2, 4, 6, this had 8. This was 12 at one time. So the rectangular table had 12 seats. We removed 4 seats. The round table had 4. You remove 1. In the larger conference room, you're removing more seats. But what we're hearing from our facilities managers is some resistance from some of the younger millennial employees about even wanting to be in a conference room. And if they are in a conference room, they may want to have something down the center here, like just like a table standing plastic screen to go down the center to sort of, you know, give you some privacy, you know, face to face. Maybe not an environment that I would like to work in, but you know, when you're a Fortune 500 company, not only do you have your employee issues, but you have legal issues as well. You have to come, you know, make sure that you're following all your insurance requirements or whatever insurance requirements are now applicable to COVID, and make sure that somebody is not going to come in and say, okay, you got me sick, now I'm going to sue you. But the overriding thing was, Tom, did you say something?
Well, I had a quick question.
Sure.
You know, do you think that this is we've been striving to densify office spaces for years now, and creating, it used to be 300 feet per person kind of thing. Then it got down to 100 feet or 150. Do you think it's going to be de-densifying as we talk about requirements going forward?
I'll let Jen jump in on that. Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we are hearing is as these meeting spaces come out into the open, offices are going to need larger spaces to accommodate. And so as you saw in some of the pictures, with the wayfinding and different elements that you can use to direct the traffic, undoubtedly you're going to need more open space to accommodate. Part of the open question is, you know, how many people will be working from home on a regular basis, and how many people do you need to accommodate in the office to have workstations on a regular basis? So that will be obviously up to individual organizations to determine.
No, Tom, it's a good question. You know, FactSet went down to just around 100 feet per person when they moved over to 45 Glover. One of the options that we're doing is to de-densify the space, is to take out a certain number of desks, remove them to the warehouse, perhaps ship them to another location, and to further spread out those little sit-stand desks that they have. Their kit per employee is a sit-stand desk, a mobile pedestal, and a high-performance chair. Per employee, that's it. No private offices, and they have a plethora of conference rooms of all shapes and sizes. Little 1 room, 2, 4, 8, all the way up to 12s and 18s. So all of that now is under reconsideration. Personally, my take is I think people are going to take more space. I believe that the office is here to stay. I think that they're not going to want to be so close packed anymore. And I think you're going to see larger square footage for leases for clients. Now, what does that mean for clients that already are landlocked, Tom? You can address that. I mean, if you can't get space in your building, what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll move. We'll see. I think your comments correspond very nicely with an experience I had this afternoon, in that we had a tour and we're leasing as-built space with furniture. And they're good sized cubes. And the tenant came back and said that in fact, they would need more space because they're not comfortable having the spaces cleaned overnight and having somebody else sit in it the next day. Even though the cleaning spec in the building has been amped up in a big way to address COVID, they much prefer to see a vacant seat so that there will be a chair and a desk for everybody in the group. And it's a good sized organization. So I was kind of surprised at that, but it sounds like your Abba Baba model addresses that.
It does. It does. And further on that too, I'll just scan back to it, even though I'm not showing what this chair is about. But we've been asked by clients now where you have like a high performance back, like a mesh back, we've been asked now to take out the fabric seat and to put in a more washable seat. And that's where some of these healthcare materials and healthcare fabrics that you can wash with bleach, or you can certainly wash with a disinfectant, come into play, particularly if you're going to share that seat, right? I mean, I'm not going to, I don't know if I want to sit on it. I mean, maybe you wipe it down yourself. A lot of clients are asking if we can put personal little, almost like sushi boxes, if you will, you know, that's going to have hand sanitizer, you know, Clorox wipes if you can find them, and things at the desk, you know, little sanitation kits at the desk for the employees then to be able to wipe down the phone, or most people use their cell phones, but to wipe down their station. So a lot of this is a work in progress. I'm hearing more and more that people are tired from working from home. I don't know if anybody saw the Mark Zuckerberg, you can find, it's on the CNBC website, but he was interviewed on CNBC where he said that 50% of his employees will not work from home. This was about 2 weeks ago, maybe around the end of May, he was interviewed. So that's a pretty severe statement, I think. I mean, he's a leading guy and he's got a big company, but I don't really see that. I've never heard that here, and I don't see that happening. Clients are saying that certain departments, certain accounting functions and everything can certainly be from home, that maybe don't have to come into work, but not across the board where you're gonna, you know, keep 50% of the people away. But I was going to say,
if I can just jump in on that for a minute, I think that, you know, as it relates to working from home, there's definitely an opportunity for people to have more flexibility and work-life balance. But when it comes to the workplace, there is a certain level of community that you get from spontaneous interactions, from seeing somebody in the cafeteria. And so my take on that is that we're going to shift. So I think that we will still have people working from home. When they come in, it might be a little bit different. And maybe they come in for meetings with smaller groups, meetings with larger groups, perhaps continue to go on Zoom. I do think that some of the open environments, they will still exist because there's a level of collaboration that just naturally happens and sparks creativity in an organization that I don't think organizations can afford to lose. You know, there's that ancillary relationship building in an organization is powerful. And so I don't see that going away 50%.
I don't either. So Jen, what are your thoughts on visitors? What do you think moving forward the visitor protocol is going to be?
So, you know, you said earlier, of course, human resources is always near and dear to my heart. And so, and part of the reason why I think that environments can be catalysts for change in organizations, and that's a philosophy that I, you know, work by and have seen firsthand. But I also think for that to happen in this particular case, behaviors need to change. And so we can change all of the furnishings and the barriers and the wayfinding signs. But I think what's also important in this is to educate that employee behaviors need to change. So if we talk about visitors and we say, you know, everybody has to put the same level of effort into greeting people and welcoming them into the organization. I think that there will be some changes in regards to the spaces that visitors can occupy when they are on site. I know some have begun to take temperatures, and I don't know, I'm no doctor, but I don't know how effective that is if you're not showing symptoms or what the case may be. So as it relates to visitors, my take is more on sanitation and having best practices for monitoring where they are and being responsible for the cleanliness before they get there and also wiping down afterwards. You talked earlier about materials, and there's absolutely a lot of materials that can, that are antimicrobial. But somebody also has to be cleaning these things. And so what types of practices are organizations adopting to make sure that these things are clean? So you can have a silicone chair that's going to be far less dirty, if you will, than an ordinary type of fabric. But at the end of the day, somebody still needs to be responsible for cleaning these materials and these surfaces.
Right.
So let us not forget doorknobs.
And we've got your screensaver up, I think. We lost your PowerPoint there.
Oh, okay.
That was a little while ago. The conversation's been good, so I haven't raised the issue. And Jen, another question to that point. Are offices going to be designed in such a way that visitors will only be allowed in certain areas? And there'll be some sort of a segregation, so to speak, to keep them away from the general population of an office?
It's a possibility, but the one thing that I kind of come back to is that a workplace is fluid, right? So no matter how you try to separate people, by nature, we are, we like social interaction. And so that's where I go back to the behaviors and the practices, and implementing those best practices is really a better idea, because now you start to build a culture that really buys into the safety and you have everybody on board. I don't know. I'm not a proponent of saying people can't go here, you can't go there. I just don't think that you can uphold it for the long term.
Thanks, Jen. Tom, can you see that screen now?
Yeah, we're better. We're much better.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. So this is just like a concept of what maybe the new floor plan is going to look like. I think from a planning point of view, and this speaks to what we said before, that there's going to be more space. You're going to have increased delineation. You're going to have like little dividers and things. These are conference rooms now that are in the open, so that the air and everything can move around. They're not going to be closed conference rooms anymore, and everything's going to be kind of loaded with the safe materials. What I like about this is it brings the digitality of the space. A lot of the digital things that you need for conference, whether it's TVs or marker boards or whatever, are now everything's in the open. And this is interesting. It's just a concept. It may not necessarily be what's going to happen, but we've been asked to research this. This is the Microsoft Tech Center, one of them. And clients are asking if this is going to be an appropriate thing for like an open conference room or for a training room. Now in the COVID world, you wouldn't be sitting like this side by side, but Jen, I could see that you would have maybe chairs on casters here. I don't know, with the tablet arm, maybe not, where people can move around and kind of maybe find their own personal space or their own difference. But to me, what's exciting here is that the technology is still available for everybody, and this is a communal space. So this would have several different uses. It could be, as I said, a training room. It could be just a conference room. It could be a town hall space. And Microsoft is just trying to highlight their technology and their integration. But clients seem to think that this may have some future applicability post-COVID.
I do think that you're going to start to see a lot more of this minimization of high touch types of items. So whether it's touchless faucets in the bathrooms, or where you can schedule meeting rooms right from your own computer versus having to go to the actual office. This, voice control types of opportunities, I think that we're really going to start to see a shift. I was actually just talking to my plumbing supplier recently, and she was telling me that at Gillette Stadium, they are actually taking out all of the toilets and putting in touchless flush. So, you wave your hand in front of it and it flushes. So I think that is going to be some of the new norm.
We're pitching a building right now for an agency, and it's a 2-story building. Actually, it's 2 floors on stilts. And we're marketing it as a COVID-friendly building. Stairwells that are light and bright. You don't rely on an elevator necessarily to get to your space, because they're talking about 2 people per elevator is kind of how we're talking about vertical transportation these days. Windows that open, and I never thought I'd promote touchless faucets and fixtures in the restroom, but that's become something that's desirable in today's world.
Right.
It's going to require some investment, and then also investment on owner's part, but also the idea of more fresh air being brought into circulation. There's a whole lot of stuff that we kind of took for granted for quite a while that is going to come to the front and center, I think, certainly for the near term.
Right.
And it's absolutely an investment. Touchless is almost double the price of a traditional of a traditional fixture. So it definitely will require additional planning. And as brokers, that's why I think that a role that brokers can play is to really understand what the client is trying to accomplish, and working with space planners to help identify how much space is there, what's the investment needed to really make the space, I'll use your term, Tom, like COVID friendly, because it is an investment.
Tom, question for you. Do you feel that horizontal buildings here in the suburbs are going to be more desirable than vertical buildings with elevators?
Yeah, I think so. Certainly for the near term. I think, once people get comfortable with either a vaccine or a treatment, we have short memories, I think, as these things go. But in the near term, yeah. I'm also, it's very difficult to predict how this is going to shake out right now. Our market's gone to sleep in terms of commitments being made, and everybody's just waiting to see what the next step is going to bring. Companies like FactSet delaying bringing everybody back until January. Others in our market are waiting till Labor Day, or they're waiting until sometime in the fall. It's taken all the air out of the balloon in terms of the urgency to make deals. It's allowed corporate real estate people to say, okay, let's see how this plays out over the course of the next 2-3 weeks, a month, maybe 2 months. We had a flurry of activity in early March as a result of this COVID situation. And frankly, very few things have actually gotten signed. So, so I do think that a large floor plate and less vertical needs will translate to a building that's more friendly. Right.
Because I know some of our staff have been in New York, and they have the dots in the elevator now where you have to stand in a corner and, almost like a triangle, 3-person per ride. I mean, that's going to be difficult to get up to work if you're on the 32nd floor somewhere. It doesn't seem all that desirable.
Well, the way I'm hearing it is that in the tall buildings, literally it would take them all day to get everybody up to their spaces at a 2 or 3 people per elevator basis. So
Right.
what they're contemplating doing is you're going to call and you're going to reserve the equivalent of a tea time to show up at the office, have your temperature scanned in the lobby, and you will have a reservation to come and jump into an elevator to be brought up to your space.
Wow.
Be staggered throughout the course of the morning, intentionally staggered and designed that way to allow for not a lot of bunching up. Because God forbid, when it gets cold outside, not everyone's going to be waiting in the lobby. They're going to be outside on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What about, I know Larry David is one of my fans. I think I'm thinking like Larry David. What about a fire drill in a building like that? What do you do?
Well, I think all bets are off in a fire
Oh,
drill.
yeah, I was going to say, all rules.
I think you're probably going to put on your mask and you're going to work your way down the stairwell. To that end, another thing that they were proposing is that all the stairwells are going to be one way. So, if you don't want to wait for an elevator and you live in a high-rise building and you're on a floor that you are willing to walk to, there'll be somebody that'll scan your temperature and then they'll let you into the stairwell. But with the understanding that everybody in the stairwell is going up. There won't be anybody coming down.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff being discussed right now.
But you know what? This is where I think that it's important to think about short-term and long-term. So like the companies that you discussed, even these short-term changes, some of them are quite expensive for smaller organizations to adopt. And the reality is, at some point, there's going to be a vaccine. And so do you put all of your investment into short-term solutions, or are you better off trying to kind of, level short and long-term? So when there is a vaccine, are you considering your air purification? I know, Dan, you've had that in your next, in your next slide or one of the later slides, but those are things that, in my mind, are longer term investments that will serve you now and in the future as things, let's say, normalize or get back to some form of new normal even.
That's a good point. Yeah. So
We have a question from Carolyn. I don't know if you saw it there, Carolyn Trotta, asking that if companies are taking into account that employees will still be wearing masks while they're working in their cubes. If you're not 3 feet apart in an open area, I suspect that that's going to probably be mandatory. Is that your understanding as well?
yes.
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 And I think that goes with my comment earlier about being in the fluid environment. While there is no vaccine, there are still just basic safety protocols that organizations are going to have to follow.
Yeah. And I don't say that I get anxious, but I guess wearing a mask for an hour or, God forbid, 8 hours, it's going to take some getting used to on all of our parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're certainly going to brush your teeth, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. But, it's just a small thing. Like, I had my mask on when I was in here, even though nobody's here today, but my glasses fog up. So, I have to keep taking it down or moving the glasses around. So there are going to be some tricks, I guess, that as a user, you have to figure out how to do it,
Let's invent something and make some money.
Yeah, fog-free mask or whatever.
This real estate thing is getting old. I'd like to do that. That would be fun. Hey, another question for you. You mentioned about tech companies and they may be a little more forward thinking in terms of people working remotely. Are there other industries that you've come across that are looking at this differently? I mean, I'm thinking specifically law firms. I've had some experience with law firms who have polled the attorneys in their firm, and they say, you know what, we're just as happy working remotely. We really don't need to come in, and all of a sudden, the footprints that they're looking to acquire, should they have a lease coming up pretty soon, are a fraction of what they were in a prior situation where everybody had their own office or their own workspace.
Right. A friend of mine is the CFO for a very large, extremely large global recruiting company. And they are embracing complete work from home moving forward, reducing their global footprint. And their new office description is going to be more of a hospitality kind of meeting area. You will have an office or two, if you need some privacy, but that's where you're going to meet your candidates or, do your interviews. They feel that they don't have to have these giant offices anymore. And to me, maybe that's perfect for that industry, Tom, but that makes good sense.
I think it also depends on the culture too, because all of these changes really come down to the flexibility that you are willing to do. So forget about what you're able to do, but different cultures have different thresholds of flexibility. And I think that will dictate a lot of what we see as well.
Yeah. I know on the FactSet side, a lot of their engineers are antisocial. They don't even talk when they're at work, right? So they're happy to be working at home. I mean, it's like they want to be in a dark space anyway, right? They don't want to be out in the open.
Right.
So, and probably the same thing, Tom, for Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he has engineers. A lot of engineers drive the Facebook product. So maybe he's intuiting that, his engineers don't want to be around each other, and they can certainly work from home because all they're doing is coding and keyboarding most of the day. And then that work product can be shared and displayed with everybody else electronically. So, maybe tech is perfect for it. I can see certain functions, as I said before, in the corporate space. A lot of back office can certainly work from home. But like Jennifer said, you're going to need that interaction. You're going to need that camaraderie. You're going to need that that sense of group. you know, to come to the office and to work together, whether you're wearing a mask or not. I mean, you know, that'll play itself out this year.
I mean, just, you know, it's that collaboration that we're referring to is so important for younger people coming up as well. I mean, to be around mentors and to see how people conduct themselves and deal with problems and learn by just by overhearing and being in meetings with people that are taking on challenges. It's so important to their growth. And I think that, I know this summer, most of the companies that I'm aware of are doing virtual internships. They're not bringing people into their office. So these kids are going to be at home, or I'm not sure where they'll be, at Starbucks, maybe not even at Starbucks, someplace, you know, on their computers or on their screens, doing tasks remotely for a mentor that they're really not going to have a lot of opportunity to interact with. And I think we may lose a beat in terms of corporate development and productivity as a result of that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I know from our clients, our education clients, higher ed, online is going to take a giant step forward. You know, distance learning has always been there. Even the Ivies are doing it. But I think you're going to see an increase in distance learning in all levels of education. My sister teaches special ed reading at the 4th grade level, and they work remote from mid-March on, and they're talking about maybe being remote in September. I mean, reading special ed. So that means she like goes one-on-one with her students and reads with her students, you know, in a virtual environment. That's pretty exciting though too, because that gives the student a better sense of, you know, association with the teacher. You're seeing that in medicine now, you know, the telemedicine. You know, you don't have to sit in a waiting room with everybody coughing, who knows what they have. You know, that you're just, you know, with your Zoom camera, you know, you're having your meeting with the doctor. And to me, that's really something I never thought I'd ever see.
Dan, why don't you go to the next slide? I think the slide you had with the questions is a great one.
Yeah, so we can all just jump in on this. You know, I'll take the first one. Is the sure thing that working remote works just fine? I would say yes and no. I know Gensler, a very large architectural firm, let everybody work from home in mid-March, but they weren't set up technologically. So they had to ship over 1,000 setups because everybody had laptops, but they had to send desktops and other printers and things to people's homes. So once that investment is made, I think they're going to fall back on it. I don't know if it's something that's going to continue, but I think it works fine. But the Achilles heel to all of this is the connectivity. Infrastructure in this country is so poor for broadband. I've been on so many calls where people's screens freeze or they get knocked off or something goes wrong. And I think, and that's not going to be corrected overnight. And I think that's going to be an Achilles heel for masses of people in a corporate structure working from home.
The other consideration of working from home is, and Dan would like to hear this, is that, you know, there's a safety issue. So we spend so much time and energy on ergonomics in the workplace, but if the majority of your employees are actually working from home, you need to make sure that they are set up ergonomically as well. Otherwise, you'd be on the hook for safety, workers' comp types of issues. So, you know, I think you referenced earlier, like having like a kit. So every employee, whether they work in the office or at home, basically is given a appropriate desk chair, you know, whether it's a sit-stand desk or some form of it, but there is some level of attention on ergonomics to the employees who work from home on a regular basis. Right.
We had a client in Stanford that is going to offer the kit to their employees. They're going to pay for it. And the kit is an electric desk, a sit-stand desk, a very high-performance chair, and a small pedestal. And most people don't want the pedestal, but they certainly want the desk and the chair. And they're going to offer that to all their employees. So I think you're right. That's going to mitigate any kind of legal things, any insurance things. You know, it's an unfolding situation. Jen, you want to take the next question and tell us what you think?
What will be left of the workplace when this is all over? Well, no M&Ms for sure, right? Because those went away.
Individual bags.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that. So what will be left of the workplace? I mean, as I said earlier, I think the workplace is a sense of community, and people long for that. So this kind of me versus we kind of environment only works so far. So at some point, me can't do everything alone. And so whether it's coming together in the workplace, whether it's coming together in new ways online, is to be seen. But I am a big proponent that the we of the workplace will evolve, and we will see people coming back. We will see people working together, just in more safety, like personal space type of safety considerations, even after there's a vaccine. I think that we will have a heightened awareness of hygiene in the workplace.
Amen. Tom, you want to give us your thoughts on the third question about, this is probably something your clients are going to ask when they're looking at space, right?
Yeah, you know, the physical workplace says a lot about the company. When you go to visit, whether you're recruiting, whether you're retaining, some companies are very forward-thinking and they're very employee-oriented. Others, maybe not so much. And you can sense that when you walk in to see somebody. And I think that it would be a big blind spot if people were to go forward and not emphasize or be concerned with the image that they put out there and how they treat their people when they're in their offices. Even if they're coming in 2 days a week or 3 days a week, I think it's important that people feel welcome, they feel safe, they feel respected. All those things come from, you know, design, investment in furniture, protocols that have people that are not going to put people at risk. And it might be masks, it may be hand sanitizers, it might be the assurance knowing that everybody took their temperature before they came into work today. So yeah, no, I think there's an awful lot that comes from the physical workspace and the furnishings. I mean, I've been in places where the cubes are 1970s version, old insurance company stuff with power poles, and you walk in there and you just kind of cringe. Versus today's open, light, bright spaces that make people feel very comfortable. And I think it lends to productivity. Of course,
oh, you're speaking music to my ears, Tom. That's what I stand for. I'm a huge advocate that the workforce, I'm sorry if my dog here is chiming in, he's excited about it too. Your work environment is a huge marketing tool for your clients, for your recruits. And if you're not tapping into that real estate and making it work for you, then you are not taking advantage of what's probably one of your top 3 line items. So I fully believe that your work environment needs to represent your business, the service that you provide, and the culture that you want to have with your employees.
It's good.
Good stuff.
So I'm gonna attack the last question here. How have workflows collectively shifted? I think we're doing it right now. I mean, prior to COVID, I never had a meeting with 30 people, a Zoom meeting with 30 people. And this has been efficient. It's been great. I'm not seeing the questions because I'm sharing the screen, but I mean, we're all in these meetings. We're all in these Zoom meetings, or Microsoft Teams now, you know, has their own platform. But that's a major, major shift for me. Jen, what do you feel?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've never done so many Zoom meetings in my life. And I think for all of us, though, it opens our eyes to new opportunities, but doesn't necessarily take away what we all know. It just kind of shapes it for how we go forward.
You know, and I do think it's contributed an awful lot to our quality of life too. You know, you talked about work-life balance earlier, but you know, when we finish this call, we may get back to our computers and work a little bit, or we could just walk out of whatever office or whatever room we are in the house and we've avoided a commute.
Right.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
So
I think sustainability is a big winner too. I mean, I was really impressed with China when they shut down and the air got cleaner. I mean, if that's a wake-up call for, you know, clean fuel or whatever, you know, there you have it. It apparently went down 8%. pollution went down 8% in a month.
Yeah.
I read that we got ourselves back to where it was in 2011
That's huge.
on a global basis.
So I thought I'd leave everybody with this.
Good.
Tom, this is an article from Forbes. It was written on June 7th. And this woman writes about, you know, workplace and workplace culture and everything. If you want, you can ping me if you got my email. Or you can just Google this. It'll pop up and I can send you the link. It's a very, very in-depth article. It covers a lot of the good points that Jennifer brought up about why you want to come to the office and why you're going to need to come to the office. It is flattering. The article's flattering about working from home and highlights the benefits of that. And one is sustainability. You know, less cars on the road, less stress. But when you circle back to her premise is we're all going to be back at work in some way or another.
Terrific. Well, guys, hey, listen, we're up against it now, I think, time-wise. And I want to thank you both for spending the afternoon with us today.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very,
Very good.
relevant and timely perspectives. You've done a marvelous job. And I hope that our audience who had an opportunity to sit in with us this afternoon have enjoyed this as well, because I think you've really been spot on in terms of what's going on, and you have your fingers on the pulse of this particular issue, which is a big issue that is unfolding by the day. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody that came on the call with us this afternoon. And we look forward to our next one next Wednesday. And you know, you'll be getting invitations, and where we're going to be talking about construction, I believe, and how spaces are being built and that whole construction process is being affected by current events.
That's great. And,
Yeah.
and thanks, Art, and thanks to you guys for doing these weekly meetings. You know, we're all in too many meetings, but these are very informative. They're right on. You're not really selling anything. You're sharing information for professionals, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, right back at you, Dan. And Tom, thank you for moderating. And Dan and Jen, you know, I can see how you guys work and collaborating with clients. You guys are great, and we appreciate your time today and putting this together for everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you all.
Thanks
Bye,
again.
everybody.
Have a good afternoon.
All right. Be well, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye all.
Bye-bye.